The Catalina Cabin is one of the newest epic parts added to the game of Crossout. But is it worth getting, or should you pass on it? Let's find out in the next episode of Battle of the Builds. Hey everyone, I'm TCS23 with Crossout Basics, and in today's video, we're going to be using this hover build to determine which of these two cabins performs the best. The main components of this build consist of 3 MG13s, 1 Aurora, 2 fused RN seals, and a Doppler radar. Our first build will feature the Torero Cabin, which increases the accuracy of all mounted weapons by 30%. This perk is especially handy when pairing it with MG13s, as they tend to increase their spread the longer they fire. After that, we will swap out the Torero Cabin for the Catalina. It has a unique perk in that your weapons start out with a decreased damage output of 15%, but as you deal damage, it will steadily increase until it reaches a maximum damage output of 65%. Just like in my previous episodes, I'll be using the build rating system I created to determine a final score for each build. If you're interested in using this scoring system for yourself, I'll leave a link in the description below. And with that being said, let's get into some gameplay highlights. Well, that was some of the most intense matches I've had so far. Now let's see those scores. So with 16 MVPs, a high score of 2,660 points, and a survival rating of 64%, the Torero hover build receives a burst score of 49 points and a burst rank of awesome. Moving on to the Catalina hover, with 19 MVPs, a high score of 3,277 points, and a survival rating of also 64%, this build receives a burst score of 54 points and a burst rank of superior. So in the end, the Catalina Cabin wins this battle. However, there is an important aspect to consider when comparing these two cabins, and that is the cost. Currently on PC, the Torero Cabin can be bought for 1,843 coins, which is certainly not cheap. However, when you compare that to the Catalina Cabin, which sits around 2,600 coins, that's a decent gap in price. So this begs the question, does the value of the Catalina Cabin compare to its performance? In other words, is it really worth the price? To find out, let's determine the difference in value between these two cabins and turn this into a percentage. We start by taking the price of the Catalina and subtracting the value of the Torero. Then we divide this number back into the Torero's value and multiply it by 100, and that gives us 42.4, which means the cost of the Catalina Cabin is 42% more than the Torero. Now, if the cost of this cabin is that much higher, then in theory, its performance should also be that much better, right? To find out if this is true, let's turn our 42% into a multiplier. We do this by starting with 100 and adding our increase of 42%. Then we divide this number back into 100, and that gives us a multiplier of 1.42. Now all we have to do is take this multiplier and times it by the burst score of the Torero Cabin, and that gives us 69.5, or we can just round up to 70. This means that if the Catalina Cabin performed as well as it cost, it should have received a burst score of 70 rather than 54. Since this build obviously did not perform that well, that means it is currently overpriced according to these results. So naturally you might be wondering, what is a good price for the Catalina Cabin? Well, let's find out, shall we? To do this, we need to determine the actual difference in performance of these two cabins and then turn this number into a percentage. We start by taking the burst score of the Catalina and subtracting the score of the Torero. Then we divide this number back into the Torero score and multiply it by 100, and that gives us 10.2, which means the Catalina Cabin performed just over 10% better than the Torero Cabin. Do you see where this is going? I think you do. If the performance of this cabin is only 10% higher, then in theory, the Catalina Cabin should only cost about 10% more than the Torero. To find out what its value should be, let's once again turn our 10% into a multiplier. We do this by starting with 100 and adding our increase of 10%. Then we divide this number back into 100, and that gives us a multiplier of 1.1. Now all we have to do is take this multiplier and times it by the cost of the Torero Cabin, and that gives us just over 2,027 coins. So based on these results, I would say that the Catalina Cabin is overpriced by about 600 coins. Now, this is just my opinion, of course, and these results can vary as well. So take this recommendation for what it's worth. Well, that will wrap up another episode of Battle of the Builds. I really hope you enjoyed watching this video. If so, please leave a like. And for those of you who are on PC and have made it this far, I want to give you a chance to win a one-day premium subscription to Crossout and a new in-game portrait. All you have to do is be the first to find the 30-digit code I put somewhere in this video. And there are actually two of them, one code for each item. Once you find one or both of these codes, just go to crossout.net, log into your account, and then go to your profile here. Look for the Activate Code tab, enter in those details, and enjoy your free gift. Once again, I want to thank everyone for supporting my channel, and other than that, I'll see you here next time on Crossout Basics.